Prisons are built to separate, to draw lines between authority and those stripped of freedom. But what happens when those lines blur, when rules collide with feelings too powerful to ignore? This is the story of a police officer who swore to uphold the law and a prisoner who carried a secret behind her piercing gaze. Their paths crossed in the cold, controlled corridors of the prison, where silence often spoke louder than words, and what began as duty soon unraveled into something far more dangerous: desire. Before we dive in, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and turn on notifications. That way, you won't miss any of the passionate and emotional stories we bring to life. What unfolds behind the locked gates isn't just about breaking rules. It's about discovering who we truly are when love challenges everything we thought we believed in. Stay until the end, because this forbidden connection will leave you questioning whether love can really exist, even where freedom doesn't. The first time I saw her, I wasn't supposed to notice. I was in uniform, standing in the fluorescent-lit corridor that always smelled of bleach and steel. My badge was polished, my boots heavy on the concrete floor. I had walked that hallway 100 times before, but that morning felt different, because of her. Her name was Camila. She had only been transferred to our facility a week earlier, but her presence had already stirred whispers among the officers. She wasn't like most of the women we guarded. She carried herself with a strange elegance, even in the faded orange jumpsuit that stripped away individuality. Her dark hair was tied loosely, falling in strands around her face, and her green eyes, they didn't just look, they pierced. I told myself to stay detached. That's what they drilled into us at training. Distance keeps you safe. But the human heart doesn't follow codes or manuals. It betrays you at the exact moment you need control. That morning, I caught her staring. She was leaning against the wall in the recreation yard, arms crossed, head tilted like she was studying me. At first, I thought it was defiance, another inmate testing boundaries. But when our eyes locked, it wasn't rebellion I saw. It was something quieter, something that made my pulse stumble. Curiosity. Recognition. A spark. I forced myself to look away, focusing on the clipboard in my hand, pretending to check off boxes. My duty was to maintain order, not to indulge in dangerous daydreams. Still, her gaze followed me, and I felt it. Later that day, while supervising lunch in the cafeteria, I passed by her table. She sat with a group of women, but she didn't join in their laughter or chatter. Instead, she traced patterns on her plastic tray with her fingertip, absent-minded. I slowed just a little, enough for her to glance up. Again, her eyes locked on mine. A subtle smile tugged at her lips, so faint I wondered if I had imagined it. Officer Ramirez, one of my colleagues, called from across the room, snapping me out of the moment. I cleared my throat, tightened my grip on the baton at my hip, and kept walking. But inside, I felt unsettled, as if something invisible had shifted. That night, when I clocked out and sat in my car in the staff parking lot, I couldn't shake her image. Her face lingered in my mind, haunting me more than it should have. I told myself I was simply alert, that I had to keep a closer eye on her because she was new. But deep down, I knew the truth. I wasn't just watching her. I was drawn to her. The following week only deepened the pull. I noticed details I shouldn't have. The way she tied her shoelaces tighter than the others, like she was ready to run. The soft hum of a tune under her breath while she worked in the laundry room. The scar just above her eyebrow, hinting at a story untold. Every fragment made her more real, more human, and harder to ignore. One afternoon, I was assigned to escort her and 2 other inmates back to their cells after kitchen duty. The hall was quiet, my footsteps echoing. Camila walked at the back of the line, her hands cuffed loosely in front of her. When I turned slightly, our eyes met again. "You don't belong here," she said suddenly, her voice low, carrying only to me. I froze for half a second. "Keep moving," I ordered, my tone sharper than I intended. But her words followed me all the way back to the guard station. "You don't belong here." What did she mean? Was it just another inmate trying to get under my skin, or had she somehow seen through me, through the uniform, the authority, straight into the woman beneath it? That night I dreamed of her. Not in the way that would get me fired, but in flashes. Her eyes, her smile, her voice echoing in the silence. When I woke, my heart was racing, my hands trembling. I hated the loss of control, but at the same time, I couldn't deny the rush it gave me. The prison was a place of rules and walls, but Camila made me realize there were cracks in those walls, cracks wide enough for something forbidden to slip through. The next day, during inspection rounds, I found her alone in the library. She sat at the far table, flipping through a worn book of poetry. I hesitated at the doorway, but duty forced me to step inside. "Time's almost up," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. She closed the book gently, then looked at me. "Do you ever read poetry, officer?" I blinked. "That's not relevant." She smiled, tough knowing. "It's always relevant." Before I could reply, another officer entered, calling out that the library session was over. Camila stood, handed me the book, and brushed past me. For the briefest second, her arm grazed mine. The contact was accidental, had to be, but my skin burned where it happened. I watched her walk away, every part of me conflicted. I had sworn to follow the rules, to keep distance. Yet with every encounter, that vow felt weaker, like a rope fraying one strand at a time. By the time I returned to the guard station, I realized something terrifying. It wasn't just curiosity anymore. It wasn't just attraction. It was the beginning of something far more dangerous. And I couldn't stop it. The days after that library encounter blurred into a rhythm I couldn't escape. On the surface, I performed my duties as usual, patrolling the halls, checking cells, filling out endless reports. But inside, something was shifting, and I couldn't ignore it anymore. Camila wasn't just another inmate in my care. She had become the quiet pulse beneath my uniform, the unspoken thought behind every command I gave. Each time I entered her wing, I felt a subtle rush, a sense that something dangerous yet exhilarating was about to happen. She always seemed to know when I was near. It was in the way her posture changed, the way her eyes found me without hesitation. There was no need for words. Her presence alone had already tied a knot around my chest. One afternoon, I was assigned to oversee laundry duty. The room was hot and smelled of detergent, steam rising from the industrial dryers. The inmates worked in silence, folding uniforms, stacking towels. Camila was there, standing at one of the tables, her hands moving with graceful precision. I tried not to stare, but the curve of her jawline caught the light, and my resolve crumbled. As I passed by, she glanced up. Her lips parted, just slightly, as though she had something to say. For a second, time slowed. "Need something, officer?" she asked softly, a challenge hidden in her tone. I tightened my grip on the clipboard, forcing my eyes to the paper. "Focus on your work." But my voice betrayed me. It lacked the firmness I was trained to keep. She noticed. I could see it in the subtle tilt of her smile before she turned back to the stack of uniforms. Later that shift, when the other women were occupied, I found myself walking past her table again. I didn't mean to stop, but my body betrayed me. She leaned closer, lowering her voice. "Why do you look at me like that?" My heart stumbled. "Like what?" "Like you see me, not just the number on my jumpsuit." I swallowed hard, my throat dry. "You're imagining things." She shook her head, her green eyes steady on mine. "No, I'm not." I should have ended the conversation right there. I should have walked away. Instead, I froze, caught in the gravity of her honesty. Her words cracked something inside me, and before I could stop myself, I whispered back, "That's dangerous talk." Her lips curved. Maybe danger is the only real thing left in here. Before I could respond, another officer entered the room, calling out for a head count. Camila stepped back, the connection broken. But the echo of her words clung to me long after the shift ended. That night, as I sat in my apartment, I couldn't stop replaying the moment. My apartment was small, quiet, filled with the sterile order I clung to outside the prison. Yet all I could think about was her voice, her certainty. She wasn't afraid to say what I was too terrified to admit. Days passed, and the pull between us only grew. The glances, the subtle brushes of contact, the silence that stretched too long whenever we crossed paths, all of it built a tension I couldn't ignore. It was like walking along the edge of a blade, thrilling and terrifying in equal measure. Then came the incident. It was a Tuesday evening when a fight broke out in the yard. Two inmates clashed, their shouts echoing against the concrete walls. Officers rushed in, batons raised, orders shouted. I moved quickly to separate them, my adrenaline spiking. In the chaos, I lost sight of Camila. When I finally spotted her, she wasn't fighting. She was cornered near the fence, another inmate towering over her, threatening. My heart clenched. Without thinking, I pushed through the scuffle, grabbing the woman by the arm and pulling her away. "You all right?" I asked Camila, my breath uneven. She nodded, but her eyes lingered on me with an intensity that stole mine away. "You didn't have to." "Yes, I did," I interrupted, harsher than I meant. My chest rose and fell, the weight of the moment pressing down on us both. Later, after order was restored, I escorted her back to her cell. The hallway was quiet, our footsteps echoing. She glanced at me, her expression unreadable. "You put yourself at risk back there," she said finally. "I was doing my job," I replied quickly. "No," she said softly, shaking her head. "You were protecting me." Her words lodged deep inside me, leaving me exposed. Because she was right. It wasn't just about duty anymore. It was about her. We stopped in front of her cell. She stepped inside, but before the door clanged shut, she turned, her gaze steady on mine. "Why?" she asked. Just one word, but it carried all the weight of what we both felt and refused to admit. I opened my mouth, but no answer came. Instead, the heavy door closed between us, leaving me on one side, her on the other, my heart pounding in the silence. That night, I couldn't sleep. Her question haunted me. Why did I risk myself for her? Why did I keep seeking her eyes in a sea of faces? Why did her presence undo me in ways nothing else ever had? I didn't have the courage to admit the truth yet, not even to myself. But the more I denied it, the stronger it became. By the end of the week, I knew one thing with certainty: this wasn't going away. And if I wasn't careful, it was going to consume me. Days in prison followed a rhythm: the clanging doors, the same meals, the same patrols. But once Camila slipped under my skin, every routine felt unpredictable. The air carried static when she was near, and I couldn't tell anymore if it was danger or desire keeping me awake long past midnight. The library shift came around again. I told myself I liked it because it was quiet, easier to manage, but deep down I knew it was because of her. When the women filed in, most scattering toward magazines or battered crime novels, Camila walked with the calm assurance of someone who had chosen her seat long before arriving. She sat near the far window, light brushing across her cheek like she belonged in a different story altogether. "Keep it orderly," I announced, my voice firmer than my resolve. Camila lifted a book and met my eyes for the briefest second. That second landed like a punch to my chest. Then she bent her head and pretended to read. I should have moved on, checked the corners, but instead I lingered at the desk pretending to sort logs. My pen tapped against the clipboard in rhythm with my racing heart. The sound of raised voices broke the fragile peace. Two inmates squabbled over a dictionary, words sharp, tempers sharper. I stepped in quickly, settling it with calm authority, but when I returned to the front, I caught Camila watching me. Not curious, knowing. Like she could see the heat beneath the armor. As the session ended, I lined the women up. That's when it happened. A folded slip of paper fell from Camila's book. My training roared inside me: contraband, report it, secure it, but my hand betrayed me. I stooped, palmed the note, and tucked it into my pocket before anyone else saw. "Drop something?" I asked flatly. She tilted her head, her eyes steady on mine. "Not mine." I felt the lie like a spark. The others moved ahead, and I stayed behind, the paper burning in my pocket like a live coal. Back at the station, Officer Dugan barked orders for a surprise contraband sweep. I barely heard him. My mind was split between duty and temptation, between the crinkle of paper against my chest and the fear that someone would see right through me. The sweep was thorough. I pat-searched half a dozen women, my hands mechanical, detached. Then Camila stepped forward. She stood still, calm, as if she had rehearsed this moment in her mind. When I checked her wrists, I felt her pulse jump. It wasn't my imagination. It raced, strong, insistent. I let go faster than protocol required. "You're clear," I said, my voice too tight. She gave nothing away except the faintest curve of her mouth, gone as quickly as it appeared. Later, in a deserted supply closet, I finally unfolded the note. 3 lines, written in looping script. "If the walls close in, search for the place where paint cracks. Some doors aren't locked forever." I stared at the words until they blurred. It wasn't a request. It wasn't incriminating. It was an opening. An invitation wrapped in metaphor. And I hated how badly I wanted to know what she meant. That night, a storm battered the prison, thunder rolling heavy across the sky. The lieutenant asked for volunteers for midnight rounds, and my hand shot up before my brain caught up. I told myself it was dedication. In truth, it was something darker, the craving to see her again. On Tier 3, the flicker of a faulty light cast the corridor in stuttering shadows. Camila sat awake on her bunk, elbows resting on her knees. She didn't look surprised to see me. "Lights keeping you up?" I asked quietly. "Maybe," she said, her voice smooth. "Or maybe it's the silence between them." I shifted my grip on the flashlight. "You're not supposed to talk during lights out." She leaned forward slightly. "You're not supposed to keep secrets in your pocket either." The words sliced clean through me. My hand brushed my chest before I could stop it. The note. She had seen me take it. "What did you mean by it?" I demanded, harsher than intended. She tilted her head. "What do you think it meant?" "That you're playing a dangerous game." Her expression softened. "If I wanted games, officer, I'd play cards." I meant what I wrote. Some things that look locked aren't. Before I could respond, the storm killed the power. The block plunged into blackness, the hum of electricity silenced. My radio crackled with frantic voices. "Stand by, generator down, maintain positions." The red dots of cameras vanished. In that thick dark, I felt movement. A shift of air, the sound of fabric against steel. Fingers brushed the sleeve of my uniform through the bars, tentative but deliberate. "Don't," I whispered, but my voice cracked under the weight of it. "Tell me no," she said, steady, close enough that I felt her breath. "And I'll let go." My chest ached. Every rule, every line drilled into me since training screamed that this was the moment to walk away. But the truth was harsher. I didn't want to. The generator roared back to life. Lights flared. Cameras blinked awake. For one heartbeat, we were illuminated as we were, her hand hooked into my sleeve, my body frozen, my soul exposed. Then she withdrew, smooth and calm, leaving only the echo of her touch. The radio hissed. Dugan's voice snapped. "Ramirez, status on Tier 3. I pressed the mic, forcing my throat steady. "Tier 3 stable. Outage contained." When I looked back, Camila sat composed on her bunk, eyes unreadable. A faint smile? Or regret? I couldn't tell. I walked away with my pulse racing, the note still folded in my pocket, and one question hammering louder than the storm outside. Had I pulled away because it was the right thing? Or because I was terrified of how much I wanted to stay? The storm passed, but the storm inside me lingered. All through the next day, I kept replaying those moments in the dark. The warmth of her hand, the quiet strength in her voice. I wore the uniform, I barked the orders, I filed the reports, but beneath it all ran a current I couldn't control. By afternoon, the prison was buzzing with something else entirely. A fight had broken out in the yard between 2 rival groups. Alarms blared, officers rushed, and chaos spread like wildfire. I was pulled into the mess, shoving bodies apart, dragging women to the ground, securing cuffs. Blood streaked across concrete, voices roared in fury and fear. In the end, 4 inmates were injured, 1 badly. The lieutenant ordered a full lockdown. Doors clanged shut. Corridors emptied. Every officer was tense, scanning for retaliation. I tried to bury myself in procedure, but when I passed Tier 3, I saw Camila at her bars, watching quietly. Her expression wasn't fear or anger. It was something sharper, like she was trying to read me from across the hallway. "Keep back," I ordered. My voice carried more weight than usual. Maybe because I needed distance more than she did. That night, the warden called an emergency meeting. He was furious, pacing the room like a caged animal. We've got contraband slipping through the cracks, fights erupting, officers distracted. I want answers. If you see anything, you report it. His eyes landed on each of us, one by one. When his gaze met mine, my chest tightened. Did he know? Did my guilt show that easily? After the meeting, Dugan cornered me. "Something's off with you, Ramirez," he said. His smirk was gone. This time, his voice carried suspicion. "You've been quiet. Too quiet." "I'm doing my job," I snapped. "Yeah." He leaned closer. "Then why do you keep volunteering for Tier 3 rounds?" My throat went dry. I walked away before he could press further, but his words dug into me like claws. The lockdown made everything heavier. Meals were delivered to cells. Yard time was suspended. The women grew restless, pacing like wildcats behind steel. When I made my rounds that evening, Camila was sitting cross-legged on her bunk, her book open but unread. "You okay?" I asked before I could stop myself. She raised her eyebrows. "Are you allowed to ask me that?" I should have walked away. Instead, I stayed. "I'm asking anyway." Her gaze softened. "Chaos doesn't scare me. It's the silence afterward that does." The words lodged in my chest. For a second, I wanted to tell her everything, that the silence scared me too, that I couldn't stop thinking about her, that I didn't know how much longer I could pretend. But a radio crackled down the hall, and reality slammed back into place. Later, as I checked the supply room for inventory, I found another slip of folded paper tucked between the logbooks. My pulse spiked. I opened it with trembling hands. Sometimes the cracks aren't in the walls. Sometimes they're in the people guarding them. My chest burned. She was pushing me, testing me, or maybe offering me something I wasn't brave enough to take. The next day brought more pressure. Investigators arrived from the regional office, demanding reports on contraband circulation. Whispers spread that an officer might be smuggling items in exchange for favors. My stomach churned with dread. All it would take was one accusation, one rumor, and my career could end before it had truly begun. That evening, when the tear quieted, I stopped outside her cell. The note weighed heavy in my pocket. "Camila," I said in a low tone, "what are you trying to do?" She rose and approached the bars. The light from the corridor traced her face, highlighting the scar near her eyebrow, the steady curve of her mouth. "I'm trying to remind you you're human." "That's not what it feels like," I said. My voice cracked. "It feels like you're pulling me into something I can't survive." Her eyes searched mine, calm and unwavering. "Maybe it's something you need to survive." Before I could respond, footsteps echoed down the hall. Dugan again. I stepped back just as he rounded the corner. His gaze flicked from me to her, then back. A smirk curled his mouth. "Library duty tomorrow," he said pointedly. "I'll keep an eye out. Make sure nothing slips." When he left, my heart hammered against my ribs. He knew something. Or at least he suspected. And if he found proof. That night, sleep refused me. Thunder had long since faded, but inside I felt the same electric hum. I turned the words of her notes over in my head, their cryptic reassurance, their dangerous invitation. The next morning, the library duty arrived again. The air was heavy with tension after the lockdown, women whispering, guards on edge. I stationed myself near the desk, clipboard in hand. Camila took her usual seat by the window, her calm presence a sharp contrast to the restless energy around her. I tried to focus on the others, on the rules, but my eyes kept finding her. At one point, she looked up and met my gaze directly. No smile, no mockery, just something quiet, steady, and unbearably alive. When the session ended, I lined them up. As Camila passed, she brushed the desk with her fingertips, leaving nothing behind this time. But the message was still there, unspoken. The cracks weren't just in the walls. They were in me. And as I led them out, Dugan's eyes tracked me from the doorway, sharp and suspicious. I knew then that the next move would change everything. The investigation dragged on for days, a shadow hanging over the prison like a storm that never broke. Rumors spread. Who was smuggling, who was talking, who was on the edge of breaking. Every officer felt the tension. Every inmate watched us with sharper eyes. And through it all, Camila and I kept circling each other, orbiting closer while trying to pretend we weren't. Dugan's suspicion had grown unbearable. He hovered whenever I was on Tier 3, smirking like he knew a secret he couldn't quite prove. Every time he leaned against the wall with that smug look, I imagined what would happen if he exposed me. I would lose my badge, my future, everything I had worked for. But the truth was more dangerous than that. I was terrified of losing her. The turning point came one evening during rec. The women had been allowed back in the yard under heavy supervision. The air smelled of wet concrete and iron, leftover rain still clinging to the ground. I paced the perimeter, eyes scanning the crowd, until I saw Camila near the fence, her gaze tilted up toward the slice of sky. Dugan appeared at my side. "She's clever," he said in a low voice. "Too clever. You should keep your distance, Ramirez." I kept my eyes on the yard. "I keep my distance from all of them. Not from her." His tone was sharp, cutting. "I see the way she looks at you. The way you look back." He leaned closer. "One day you'll slip. And when you do, I'll be there." He walked away, leaving the words like a blade between my ribs. I turned back to Camila, and in that moment she looked at me, straight through the crowd, straight through the bars and fences and uniforms. The world went silent around us. And I knew I couldn't keep hiding. Not from her. Not from myself. Later that night, when the tears had gone quiet, I walked the corridor outside her cell. My footsteps echoed like a drumbeat of my own fear. She was waiting, sitting on the edge of her bunk, eyes steady. "You shouldn't be here," she said softly. "Neither should you," I answered, and for once the uniform felt like nothing more than fabric. She stood and came closer, until only the bars separated us. "Why do you keep fighting this?" "Because it's wrong," I whispered, the words burning. "Because it could destroy us both." Her hand lifted, sliding through the gap in the bars. Not demanding, just there, waiting. Or it could save us. The world seemed to pause. My chest ached with the weight of every rule, every consequence, every possible future. And then, with a breath that felt like surrender, I took her hand. Warmth rushed through me, real and undeniable. For the first time, I didn't pull away. Her eyes softened. "There's the truth." I closed my eyes, my forehead leaning against the cold steel between us. "I don't know how this ends." "Neither do I," she said. "But at least we're not pretending anymore." For a long moment, we stayed like that, her fingers laced with mine through the bars, two people clinging to something fragile in the unlikeliest place. The silence wasn't heavy this time. It was alive. Then footsteps echoed at the far end of the corridor. My stomach dropped. I pulled back quickly, heart hammering. Dugan's shadow stretched across the wall as he turned the corner. He stopped when he saw me. His eyes flicked to Camila, then to my face. A smirk tugged at his mouth, but this time he said nothing. He just shook his head slowly, as if filing the moment away for later, and kept walking. When he was gone, I turned back to her. Fear and fire battled inside me. "He knows." "Let him," she said, her voice steady. "He can't control what's real." I wanted to believe her. I wanted to hold on to that courage. But all I could do was nod, the lump in my throat too heavy to speak around. The next day, lockdown lifted fully. Life in the prison returned to its rhythms, but nothing was the same. Every time I passed her cell, every time our eyes met, there was no more pretending. We carried the truth like a secret flame, hidden from the world but burning all the same. Weeks later, my transfer papers came through. A new assignment. A different facility. Part of me felt relief. Distance might save my career. But part of me ached with a loss I couldn't explain to anyone. On my last night, I walked Tier 3 one final time. Camila stood at the bars, waiting. No words, no notes, no games. Just silence thick with everything we hadn't said. "This isn't goodbye," she said finally. I swallowed hard. "Then what is it?" "It's proof," she whispered, "that we found something even here. That means it can't be destroyed." I stepped closer, memorizing her face, her voice, the fire in her eyes. I couldn't touch her this time. Not with Dugan and every camera watching. But in that moment, I didn't need to. Because she was right. As I walked away, the note still hidden deep in my locker, I knew I would carry her words long after the doors closed behind me. And maybe, someday, the cracks in the walls of this world would be wide enough for both of us to walk through. Some stories aren't about easy endings. They're about the courage to face yourself even when the world tells you not to. Have you ever felt something so strong you couldn't ignore it, even if it came with risk? If this story touched you, subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and share it with someone who believes in impossible connections. Because sometimes, even in the harshest places, love finds a way to survive.